Coming from Hyderabad,
Okay.
India.
Okay. Hi, Vinod. Can you hear us now? Okay, not sure if you are able to talk. You should be able to as well. Okay, so let me just start sharing my screen. Okay, so Sarat and Vinod, the agenda for this today's session is that we want to explore something on Automation Hub. How about you, Sarat? Have you ever worked with this tool so far?
I have an idea, Saloni. I didn't get a chance to really work on it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair enough. And how about you? We're not too sure if you have ever got a chance to look at Automation Hub. But yeah, this is one of the tools that we typically use in discovery. So, we will actually be running some discovery sessions in November. So honestly, it's very, we are actually trying to explore much more avenues to get much more audience from Australia. Because as of now, specifically in Adelaide, the chapter that we are running, we are seeing that this is a new tool for everybody, the UiPath as well as all the platform. So that's where we want to actually leverage this opportunity to explore more within the same region. But yeah, I'm happy for other geographies also joining, which is great because this gives us an opportunity to also interact with people outside this region. So thanks a lot, Sarat, for joining today. And we know this from Adelaide as well. So we are trying to also create this community within this region. Now, from this automation discovery, so basically, this is more of a discovery tool. So today we'll also be covering bits of UiPath discovery suite. So about me, so I have been associated with UiPath for good 3 to 4 years. I have experience working within UiPath itself. I was working there as a business analyst, and now with Pernix, I had the automation practice in the organization. So I do a lot of discovery. I use UiPath Automation Hub as well as work on other platforms from discovery space. So in this session, we'll talk about all the suites that we have part of the discovery platform. And we'll also look at what is the importance of this in terms of process discovery in RPA. So why we should actually do this discovery even before doing the design, delivery, all the other aspects within the RPA software lifecycle. Then we'll move on to looking at some of the industry challenges. So we will also understand that what are some of the companies struggling with, and then why UiPath Hub can be kind of their go-to platform to leverage and then solve some of their existing challenges and issues. And then I'll just show you the automation hub where we will specifically talk about how we will use the assessment criteria to kind of navigate through all the questions that we have and how you can really fill that, which will give you a synopsis of the cost benefit analysis as well as the potential ROI that can help you make much better decisions for taking the prioritization as well as that particular process for automation. So that's what we are going to cover, but feel free to add questions, share our experience. So that's what, most important is that we want to keep this session more interactive. It's not just I delivering it, but would like to hear from you some of your automation challenges, some of your experience working on these platforms to make it much more interactive. So what's discovery? So this is something that usually companies pick this up even before they want to really understand whether we should start delivering or kind of designing any automation process. So we should actually discover, we should try to understand or identify what are the right use cases. If I'm spending some money on any kind of licenses or the professional services, is it going to really reap me an ROI? That's what we want to discover. So from the step by step process, I would say the first thing is to identify all the processes. So it shouldn't be really that at this stage you should think that whether it's feasible, not feasible, whether it's going to give me ROI. At this stage we should actually pick up a lot of ideas within the organization. More it is, then it'll be good for you to actually narrow down it to maybe couple of ideas. So the very first step is pick up all as many ideas as you can, and then do a very high level analysis of that particular processes that you have listed. Maybe you can also try to gather some aspects of what is the volume of that process, how many FTs are involved, what is the average handling time, etc., to then conduct a very high level feasibility. So at a process analysis stage, you are understanding more of the process, most of the KPIs related to that. But when you move to feasibility, uh, just 1 second. Are you able to see the screen? Is it moving for you guys?
Yes, Saran.
Okay. Not sure, Vinod, if you're facing any challenge, but yeah, it seems it's moving for Sarath. Are you able to see what is discovery? Sarath, you're able to see?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so from a feasibility study, what we are talking about is that at this stage, you should be able to understand as a business analyst that if this particular process is having some potential to be picked up by RPA or AI. I can hear my echo back. Can everybody go on mute, please? Yeah, thanks. So not really going into each and every detail, but at least if you can understand whether the rules are pretty standardized, if there are a lot of steps that do not involve manual intervention. So at that stage you should be able to understand a little bit of it, based on which you can prioritize. Now prioritization depends on a lot of factors. It can be cost, it can be a vision of any company as well. Maybe they want to focus on one process to be fully automated, even if ROI is not too much, but they say that no, I want my finance department to be fully automated. Other thing can be that they think that cost might not be a factor, but accuracy as well as quality is something more important. So all these things you can try to understand at a discovery stage to then prioritize your automation solutions. So with discovery, at least if you have got some ideas, you'll be able to funnel down to a few ideas that you should pick up for final delivery. And why do you need delivery? So basically, discovery is done to first of all identify automation opportunities. So as I said, that not all the opportunities within an organizations are fit for automation. Reason being, it is maybe not technically fit, not cost viable, all those things. So you do the discovery to uncover all the different processes that actually you should pick up for automation. After that, you should also ensure that you are maximizing the return on investment. So of course, if you are spending some money, it should really reap you benefits, and benefits can be in terms of cost reduction, in errors, maybe compliances, reduction in FT. All those things can be something which we can try to maximize it using the discovery process. So that is something which is the kind of objective of a business analyst, to present all this to the management to give them much more insights about whether they should actually pick up this project for automation or not. Going to risk mitigation, at discovery stage we should also be able to understand what are the associated risks. So you should be able to talk to team members and try to understand what are the associated risks in terms of any compliances that might be not followed if you're automating the process, if there are any penalties that can actually be applied if I do something which is incorrect. All those things you should try to understand at discovery stage to then weigh if your risk is much more than actually doing it with automation. So you should all cover this. And then at this stage, discovery is also important to have a very high level understanding of the use case. At this stage, we really don't drill down into step by step all those aspects as we do in design, but discovery is more about doing a high level understanding so that at least you can understand what the process is. Typically, based on my experience, I have also created a very, very high level as is and a to be flow as well in discovery, to help me understand much better about what is the process, and then take a buy-in from the customer that my understanding is right. So that's what I typically do in discovery stage itself. Yeah. Stop me in between if you have any questions. And feel free to add anything extra that you have faced in your organizations. Please add in and stop me. So this is one of the approaches which UiPath recommends, which is very important for you to actually kind of prioritize some of the automations. So this is a very useful grid, which is based on complexity and benefits. So when you do the discovery, you should be able to understand what is the complexity of the processes that I am looking at, in terms of how many screens are there, how many applications are there, how many errors that can be generated in terms of exceptions, etc. So that would help you understand the complexity. And benefits, as I said, it's more towards the ROI, can be cost as well as FTs, quality, etc. So with this grid, everything which is low complex and high benefits are quick wins. These are something that you can start working on immediately. So usually how we work is we start with quick wins, then we go to the low hanging fruits, then we move to the must do improvements, and then finally the long term improvements. So if you can actually put all the different processes in these grids, you know what is the right prioritization within the organization. So this is a very helpful automation quadrant that can be used by business analysts. Okay. So this is exactly what I have created based on my experience working with UiPath as well as here at Pernix. So this is some of the RPA discovery process stages that we should follow. Of course, when I say we should follow, this is more of guidelines. There can be reasons that you might need to skip certain stages, which is fine. But yeah, it's more of a best practice that we have been following so far, and it really helps get the right results. So, what we do is we start by gathering initial information, which means that maybe you can start talking to a CEO lead or person who is like a sponsorer to give you all the processes that are there in the organization. This gets a little tricky at certain stages because sometimes you don't know what is the right mechanism to gather those ideas. That's where automation hub also comes into picture. But you can actually start getting things in Excel or doing some workshops. So there are different ways that I'll cover in the next slide. So typically you may be getting 100 processes. So just giving an example of my one of the experiences with one of the customers, they gave me at least 60 to 70 ideas to start with. And when we got this idea, we also got information of how many volumes are attached, how many uh, FTs are actually people working on that particular process, what are the kind of AHTs for each task, whether it's really kind of their vision, etc., to process this. So all these initial information, how many steps are involved, how many processes are involved. So all these steps, if they give, at least it can give you some understanding of whether you should really start discovering it or not. So that would typically give you an inventory of different ideas. And then what you do is you start assessing them. You look at it from a very high level understanding of those information that have been shared, and start creating like an as is diagram. As I said, that's what I usually do as part of my discovery. So till this stage it's more functional understanding, but it is also good to involve a solution architect at this stage, who has slightly more information about getting inside that particular process, understanding what all UiPath products you can actually work on, whether it will be more document understanding or it would be action center, AI center, etc., to then understand whether it's technically feasible to automate this process, because that's what even the management would like to understand about the licenses, what might be a cost, etc. So that's what is it's important, and this will lead you to also calculate the ROI, etc. So this is what is done for discovery. And then from a business case creation perspective, there are a lot of templates. So if you go to Academy, there are a few templates that have been prescribed by UiPath, but typically it's just a quick synopsis of a lot of things like the as is, uh, what is the problem of that particular process, what are we trying to solve, what are the benefits. So if you can just put that on one slide and present it to management, that gives a very neat picture to them to take a decision whether we should go ahead or not go ahead with this process automation. So by this stage, you should be able to filter out at least a few ideas that you can select for final documentation. So this is not the design documentation. It's typically a discovery documentation where you can probably create business case, as I said, the ROI, etc. There are a lot of templates you can also create in terms of this particular thing. Like, for example, what we do is we also do option analysis. Like if we pick up a process, we also try to make the management understand whether API is the right way of automating or it is RPA. So we give all those options to them, and then we finally hand it over to delivery. And when I say hand it over to delivery, it's not that it's completely out of business analyst side. That's the time. Now you start working on the deep dive analysis of creating PDD, etc. That's where it goes to hand over to delivery, and that's the discovery end. So this is only the discovery process. So very, very meaningful and fruitful process. Honestly, this gives you a lot of insights about how you can manage a lot of things even before you start delivering. Now, moving slightly towards the automation hub part of the discovery. So, as I said, there are a lot of tools that are available in UiPath for discovery, automation hub being one of them. Uh, why idea management, if it is not done properly, can lead to a lot of challenges within the organization. Basically, what happens is that sometimes what happens, an employee has an idea, but he doesn't know how to or where to share that idea. So that's where, if you don't know, you don't know who's the right team, if you don't know what is the right mechanism to actually share this idea, it is very difficult for you to create a proper pipeline within the organization. Even if you have got a thought process of automating, if it is not coming from the people who are actually doing this in and out within their team or in their process, it will never be something that the management will be able to pick up. So that's the biggest challenge. Next is that lack of programmatic approach. So see, if you don't have a right approach to calculate what is the ROI, you would not be able to prioritize the backlog, which will ultimately leading to picking up some ideas which might not be fruitful, and your ROI or productivity, all those things would eventually go down. There are also ways where we have seen that, if you're talking to certain collaborators much more diligently and talking to them much more openly and regularly, there is much more better impact of improving the time, or reducing the time that it takes to actually deliver those ideas. So if you're talking to right people at the right time, the things really get fast tracked, because it necessarily gives visibility to all the stakeholders that who should be the person who should be reached out to for approvals, for funding of the projects, etc. So these are typical challenges and impact, and that's where we have got automation hub that comes into picture. But before we go there, the thing is that we have shared that discovery is important, but other thing is that how you have to do it. So that's another question that BAs have in their mind. They don't know what is the right mechanism to discover. So there are a lot of different ways, but some of the ways that UiPath would recommend is that you can either use process mining, which is another discovery tool. So there is process mining, there's task mining. You can use those products to actually go and mine your process or products using AI. So which we will cover in our next process or the discussions. But this is what it is, that it's a tool that can be put on a system, and then it can start analyzing data using logs and existing activities, etc., and will tell you from an artificial intelligence perspective whether it's a good use case to be automated or not. So that's more automated way, but there are different ways of where you can actually conduct workshops, interviews, talk to stakeholders and get their understanding of the process and pick up those ideas. So if they talk about one process, you can drill down to second to third, etc. So that's how typically a manual discovery is done. Beyond that, you can start doing data analysis. So you can start picking up a lot of data from existing team members, and then you can start identifying the trends and seeing what are the bottlenecks, how much volume somebody's processing, etc. And finally, there are a lot of frameworks. So if you actually look at, there are a lot of process assessment tools also prescribed by UiPath, which if you enter some data can help you understand what is the automation potential, etc. So all that you can do with the different tools that are available. uh, Moving on. So as I said that UiPath has got a discovery platform. Of course, the entire platform is divided into discover, automate, and operate. But the focus of our discussions for next 4 sessions would be only discovery. So from discovery, we've got four processes or applications that have been prescribed by UiPath, which is process mining, task mining, communication mining, and idea capture and management, which is actually the automation hub. So I'll just give you an overview of these in this session, but in the next upcoming sessions, we'll be talking about each of them separately, and we'll be drilling down to them, also doing a demo. But for process mining, this actually application goes and sits in the user system. So you can install it, and it can actually capture a lot of logs and activities that have been already stored in the system based on the activities that you do in ERP systems, etc. So it actually goes on the digital footprints which is existing, and it mines all that data to help you understand that what is the right path, what are the blockages, etc., so that you can then prioritize it for automation. So that's process mining. Task mining is the difference between process mining and task mining is process mining is typically done on already existing digital footprints, whereas task mining is done on a user system while he's actually performing that task. And from task mining perspective, there are two types of task mining. One is assisted task mining and unassisted task mining, where assisted task mining you typically use when you already know the process. So when you want to actually mine a process that is typically known by management, etc., and then they know that we really want to pick up this as a use case. But unassisted is more where there is a lot of ambiguity in that process, so you go and use unassisted task mining. So these are two of those mining tools that are pretty much AI driven, can help you understand what are the blockages, etc. Communication mining is more to do with communications. So a lot of platforms like emails, chats, etc., which are used by customers. When I say customers, the end customers. So this tool would actually help you mine all those different communications and give you an AI based KPIs, etc., to find out whether it's a good use case to automate, etc. So that's on the mining. And finally, on the idea capture and management, that's where we will focus all our energies today, is talking about Automation Hub. So if I move to the next slide, UiPath Automation Hub is actually a one-stop platform which can be used for pipeline management. It's typically, you can say it's a crowdsourcing platform where you can source a lot of different ideas from your employees, and they can actually go and register all these ideas in one application. And there is a lot of different status or phases that it undergoes, so that everybody can have a holistic view of this particular pipeline that is being tracked at an organization level. uh, and to that extent, you also have an understanding of the opportunity assessment, which means that you would have to enter a lot of different assessment criterias, which will help you understand what is the priority score, etc. And all these pages are pretty much what you say, role based. So people can have different profiles, and they can only visualize some aspects of those uh, uh, modules within Automation Hub. So that's where you can also hide certain confidential data from some of the team members if they really did not need not see any financial aspects, etc. This tool also helps you do an ROI calculation. So there are a lot of inbuilt algorithms within this tool, which I'll show you, which will tell you that how much of potential saving you can have with some process, how much of employees you can actually use them to work on more strategic work, etc. And finally, this tool is also used as a documentation repository. Like you can store your PDDs, your solution architecture diagram, etc., as a storage location. You can host all of it here. And there are a lot of pre-built dashboards. So as part of the demo, I'll just cover it on high level, but if required, we can have a lot more sessions to understand each dashboard, how you can configure, etc. So that's what a high level automation hub looks like. And the benefits that you can actually get out of automation hub, why you should have automation hub is it's a central management. So as I said, that typically if you don't have any other avenue where people cannot share their ideas, automation hub is the right platform where you have got everything already documented, etc. um, okay, just checking with the people on the call. Are you able to see my screen moving, or it is still on one of the screens? Sarat, Pranam, are you able to see? Yeah, this is where you see, right? So I think that's the right screen I'm on. So, central management. So, as I said, it's one-stop platform to have a look at your ideas, where it is, with whom it is actually pending for approval, who submitted this idea. So, all that you can manage, which will lead you to effective prioritization. So, it will help you to do prioritization in terms of picking up the right automation solution with also an analysis. So it will give you an ROI, how much of cost it is there, how much of benefit actually you can reap out of this particular process. All this would be there. And then I'll show you that this also shows some readiness score, implementation score, etc. There are a lot of inbuilt reports that you can utilize. And then it is very flexible. So there is a form that you need to fill, but typically this form is very flexible. You can also change the fields to cater to your own organizations, as well as some of the terminologies that you use within your organization. An automation hub has a cloud version. It has also got on-prem version, so you can use that based on how the customer needs. But if it is a cloud version, it is very easy to start running as soon as you get the licenses. It is also integrated with Jira, so you can start also tracking tickets with the help of data which is on automation hub. And there is an existing workflow management. So typically, most of the companies also follow a workflow where once you submit an idea, it has to go for next level of approval, etc., etc. So this tool has already got that workflow management. The good part about this tool is that you can actually change the roles of the people within the organization. So you can make somebody as an idea approver, you can make somebody as kind of a project owner, etc., so that you can have your approval mechanism pretty directed to the right people. And finally, because everything is in one place and then you know what is happening with each project, you can easily start running the project as soon as things are approved. So I'll just stop sharing the slides and stop or pause for any questions, because beyond this, I'll just move to Automation Hub and show you the real platform. Any questions so far? I will just quickly check the chat also if there are any questions from anybody. Okay, so Harpreet, you were asking this question: how are you doing discovery in your organization? Are you using your UiPath Automation Hub? So the answer to this is, Harpreet, yes. Sometimes we use it because our organization is more consulting, where we actually have to also understand what are the customer requirements, if they have got the right licenses, etc. So you can use it if they've got the right licenses. So yes, we have used it for a lot of clients, but sometimes we also do manual discovery in case the customer doesn't have that particular platform available as part of the license. So we are doing a hybrid model. Sometimes it's manual, sometimes it's part of UiPath Automation Hub. But yes, UiPath automation is also that we have done with customers. Anybody wants to share their experience? Sarat, Vinod, Harpreet, how about you? You want to share how it is done in your organization? 1 second, I'll give you that. Yeah, Harpreet, you have got the presenter.
Other licenses easily. So budgeting issues there, you can understand that. Yep.
Yeah, but
So
as I said,
that's
yeah, go ahead. You can probably
sorry.
have a chat with the UiPath salespeople, how they can actually help you leverage this platform. So yeah, that's something there you can do.
So usually when you do the discovery, do you also give the code for the licenses as well? Are you also being part here?
Yeah, so how it actually works is that certain countries have got different ways of doing licensing. So sometimes it's through
Mm-hmm.
distribution channels, uh, sometimes it's directly through UiPath. But yes, we definitely talk to customers and give them quotes either through the distributors or through UiPath. But yes, sometimes we have to send the quotes to them. So there are
So
different
you
models.
got
Yeah, tell me.
right. So you are doing a managed services then, right?
We do professional services, managed services, both.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. Got it.
Okay, I'll go to Automation Hub. Just let me know if you're able to see that platform. Are you able to see Automation Hub?
Yes.
Okay. So I have landed on the screen from the Automation Cloud platform, which you would have even if you have a community license, etc. You should be able to go to this, and then if you go to the Automation Hub, which is typically here, so if you click on that, you'll be able to land on a home screen, and the home screen would typically have the entire projects that are already listed here. So I've got a few that have been created as dummy profiles. In fact, when you get into Automation Hub, you will see some of those ideas already existing, which have been created by UiPath product team members. Like Jane Doe, I think this is one of the processes that have been there. But you can keep on adding a few more. So how you actually submit an idea? So you just go click here, and then you're given two ways to submit. So you can pick up the finance business area wherever you want to apply that particular automation practice to, and then you will pick up. So all these things can also be customized. So maybe if you're interested, I can also run next time the admin console of this process, so you can actually configure everything. So you can then pick up the subcategory, and then generally what typically most of the companies uses two ways of submitting ideas. One is employee driven and one is COE driven. Of course, there are citizen developer automation as well as change request, but these two are very typically used types. And how they differ is, uh, any employee who just wants to give a basic idea about their automation idea, which would only ask them some 4 to 5 questions, they can submit an automation idea. But when it comes to COE, we expect that he would actually understand a bigger picture of the process and would be able to submit the idea, which I'll show COE much more because it will anyways cover the employee driven idea as well. So the other difference is that employee driven idea goes into an idea approval stage also. So it has to be approved by an idea approver, whereas COE driven idea doesn't need to. So if you are a COE or a BA, typically you have to actually go into a COE driven idea. So once you select that, you go to the next phase where you would have a form that you have to submit, and this form is pretty flexible, so you can change this form in the admin console. But from the fields that we have, you can start filling this, and I'll explain you some of the fields that might be something that you want to understand. So I will just enter a few things. So you have to put the tag automation name. Automation ID would be automatically generated. Then you give a very high level understanding of the description of the project, like what is this process about at a very high level. And then you will list some of the pain points. For example, I would say manual process, errors in processing. So you can list as many as you want. So these are the pain points. These all things would give an idea to the next stage approver to help them understand why we want to automate this project. uh, what if we actually do not automate this project? What would be the negative impact? So if you actually hover on this ice information, it will tell you what this parameter or field really asks for. So, those fields that are not marked as star are not mandatory, so you can skip them. But if you want to enter all the information, you can go ahead and enter. In terms of detailed assessment, now it will ask you some of the questions like what is the reason to automate this project. So there are like these three reasons. You've got cost, quality, productivity. It really depends, but typically most of the companies want to automate because of cost. A very important factor when you want to automate something is you have to understand if the process is going to change in next 6 months. If it does, typically we usually don't recommend for automation because it's a waste of effort as well as cost, that you are deploying your the developers, etc., doing the end-to-end software development lifecycle, and then the process changes. So typically this is what it will take as one of the input to tell whether you should automate or not. So I'll just go with the happy path of saying no changes are expected. Again, this is pretty similar. If application is going to change, doesn't really make a lot of viability in terms of really automating something. Yeah. So that was on the environment, how stable it is. Then next question is based on what is the employee profile, like how many hours or days a person really works on this process per year. So when you enter this, you have to talk about the FTs that are involved. So I would probably say 10. So this is days. How many people are like? What happens is there can be 50 people working on a project, but not all the days is something that they work. So that's where we have to enter how many days they are actually working. So working hours per day. So it really depends on region to region. Like for India, typically it's around 8.5. Like for Australia, it's around 7.5 or 7.6. So that's what you enter. And then you also enter how much is a cost of an employee, because this would help them to ascertain what is the cost that we are going to actually put for this particular use case. So average employee full cost per year, we can say like just a random number. I'm just giving you something that's an average cost in Australia. This can be again different from different regions. So that's on the employee profile, like how many hours typically the employee is working, how many days they are working, and what is the cost of that particular employee. From now, this next questions is more from volume, like what is the frequency of the task that you're performing. So whether it's a daily process, weekly process, all those options you have. And then you say that what is the volume on an average. So when you go inside, this is based on the frequency that you have shared. Like if you say daily, you have to enter daily volume, but if you want to give it monthly, then you go ahead and change that frequency first before you enter the volume. So for now, it is considering that you will give daily volume. So you will say probably 100. And then also you've got further drop down to say whether it's a per company level or it's a per employee. So I'll say it's a per company, 100. A number of employees performing the task. So that was just to understand the profile of the people that are working. But this is now exactly understanding how many people are working. So I'll say 10 people. And then how much time they actually take to process one transaction. When I say transaction, so transaction is the smallest unit which is actually considered where you would do that process automation. So a transaction can be an email, a transaction can be one line item in a particular Excel, a transaction can be one invoice. So it really depends on what is the transaction. So it says average processing time per transaction. So I'll say probably around 10 minutes. And all these things are not mandatory, but if you understand that, it will give a much more accurate ROI for you to understand what is the potential. So I'll say 2% of average rate, but typically in the industry we say 5 to 10. So you can vary that. And how much time it takes to really spend effort to do a rework. So if you have done something and you have to spend some time to make those changes, how much time is spent? So we can say probably 2 minutes more. Once you have done 10 minutes of work, if there is a rework, another 2 minutes. Some of the things you can just leave it blank, like if there's, so what sometimes what happens, we will have a maker and a checker process. So once somebody has already done something, there's another person who's involved to review or audit that task, so you can enter if it is there. uh, Otherwise you can skip. So with all this, what I had entered, the automation hub calculated that there is 4267 hours per year that is invested on this process, and the FTs required is 2.2, and the cost for process as is 165,131. And how it is calculated is typically the cost I have put for my employees into 2.2. So that's the cost that is currently invested if this process is done manually. So that's the first thing that you would be able to make management understand that as of today you are investing so and so in your current process. Now, beyond this, there has to be other inputs that we need to add. Like we have to also understand what are the peaks, etc. Now, why is this required? Is that you also have to understand how many bots or what is the number of licenses you might need. So that's where process peaks are important, because if you would just automate a regular flow at a stage where there are peak periods, you will actually, or you will see your process or bots failing. They will not be able to process those volumes. So that's the reason you have to also say that, there are process peaks, and what are those process peaks, you can use it from the drop down. And then what are the average number of steps in your process, so you fill that. And then it will ask you number of ways. So this is a question that is asked to understand whether one process is done in multiple ways or it is done the same way every time that you are really doing it manually. So in a real time situation, it might not be that a process is completed same every time. There can be variations, so you can pick up based on that. And more you go down, honestly, more would be the less would be the automation potential. So if the same process is done in different ways, it gets little more tricky to actually start automating it. The next is the digital inputs, which means that what is the quality of the data that you have already. So if your data is already available digitally, like you have got everything on a system, to pick an example of invoices, they are not really paper, they're on your system, so you can go ahead and say 100% or 80%. Again, this will also help you ascertain what is the feasibility of automating this particular process. Scan data input is where you would have a lot of unreadable documents, and if they are scanned, that's what you will enter here. So again, if you hover on these eyes, you will be able to understand what exactly this particular parameter says. Do you have scan data input, yes or no? So if you say yes, the potential is slowly going to go down, but yeah, I will just give you all those different parameters. What is the percentage of structured digital data input? So I assume you already know a difference between structured and an unstructured data input. Structured is a data input that remains same every time. For example, if you look at the tax forms of most of the countries, they are very structured. Like it is same every time. Even if you file your tax or I file my tax, the form doesn't change. So that's a structured data input. Whereas if I look at an invoice, it's a semi-structured, because one organization might have a different form, another one might have another form, but still, on and off, you would see the same fields which are in an invoice. So it's more of a semi-structured. Whereas there are certain forms, for example, handwritten documents or a resume, which is not a structured document, etc. So based on that, you can actually say what is the percentage of the structured data that you have. Then you can add those applications. For example, I will say Microsoft Outlook. You can add those applications. You can add as many as you want. And that's where Automation Hub has calculated what is the potential, what is the ease of implementation, how much of the benefit that company can have if you have picked up this process with all the parameters that I have submitted. Then what is the benefit per company it will have in terms of dollar figure. And you can also change this currency actually. So if you go to admin, you would be able to also change it to USD, AUD, etc. I'm in Australia region, so I've put it as a Australian dollar, so you can change that. Benefit per company, so this is typically how much of FTs you can save if you do this implementation end to end. Benefit per employee, so you can actually give back 333 hours per year to that employee. So all these parameters are already calculated, and then you can assign a process owner to your idea and then submit your idea. So that's how a COE actually submits their idea. So once you submit, goes to the process owner to have a quick review and then submit it for the next stage. So there are different stages. So the difference, as I said, the employee driven idea is also going to idea approval for submission. This is directly going to just the process owner to take it to the qualification stage. Yeah, so this is where your idea would be submitted, and you can see it in the explore. You will see with your name that this is the idea that one person has submitted, like test project. Now, if I open this idea back, so you would see other different modules within the same idea. There's one more, which is cost benefit analysis. So you can also fill a lot of different parameters there. So if you go edit, so UiPath has already calculated that the ease of implementation is easy. But if you want, you can change that based on Harpreet, what you were saying. Manually, if you are doing a discovery, you would have already understood that this is not really an easy process. Maybe it is medium. So you can change that, but I'll keep it as same. You can also track your project plan here in terms of like when do you think that the analysis will start, the solution design would start, etc. So this is your baseline, which means that this is what you actually want it to be. And then you can also track the actual timelines, like you thought it will start here, but actually it started on another day. So you can change all those actual and add the I would say baseline dates. So this would also help you track the project plan. And then there are a lot of different parameters just to understand the cost. So you can say RPA, software vendor used. So all these options are something that you can go and put it in admin. So you can put UiPath, etc., based on which it'll also give you an option to then select whether it's an unattended, attended robot. And in the admin, you can also put the cost of all this. So maybe if you know that the amount of dollars that you spend on attended, unattended, if you put in admin, you can go and directly enter in the software licenses used. This volumetric data has been picked up from my initial assessment, so that is something that you need not change. It is already picked up. And this is the volume split in terms of how it was earlier. Like it has already estimated that the process can only be automated 78%. So it has just split that before and after, when human being was doing and when robot is doing, how much is still the human effort required. So it has split that in this particular table. And then you can add as many costs as you want. So that was only on the RPA, but then you have got different costs. Like apart from UiPath, maybe you are using another tool to do some kind of testing, etc. So you can add all those. And this is from analysis stage. If you have got a business analyst, what is their rate, etc., you can add. Then at an analysis stage, what is the total cost? Then you would have you can go and change the phase. Now the solution design, where you can enter the solution architect cost. Then you will have developer. So all those cost of like the professional services, you can enter there. This is more of one time cost. And then you have got the software licensing cost of UiPath or other solutions that we have. So this tool is pretty process or platform agnostic. In fact, I should have told you earlier, it's not necessary that you are using this tool only for RP automations. You can use it for any other automations as well. For example, you are using some database to store. So you can put the cost of all the different costs that are associated with the entire digital transformation. Here is when you would actually enter the managed services cost as well. So if you have got the team who's doing managed services, you can also enter maintenance cost. Then from infrastructure standpoint, what are the different costs that are associated of getting maybe a virtual machine, or upgrading a virtual machine with the required specs. So all those infrastructure costs can be accounted here. And finally, any other cost apart from what is listed here, if you want to enter. So this would help the management understand that this is my investment. And with that, all those potential calculations that were there, it will give you an understanding of what is the cost and the benefit. So once you save this and come out of this particular form, on the front screen, you would see that it will give you a cost benefit kind of a grid. So what it is saying is that today you are spending 165k dollars, which is mainly for the manual people who are working. In like next 1 year, automation cost, like depending on what I had added, it's around 36k, and then the benefit would be around 129k. So in first year you would be having this benefit, and then similarly for second year. So it will give you that particular estimates of how much you can actually save on the cost. So this all you can actually go and use it in your business cases. So that's on cost benefit analysis. Documentation is what I was talking about, where you can store your different documents. So you've got all the links, like if you want to actually use some of the PDDs or solution design documents already prescribed by UiPath, you can go ahead and pick up them and start working on them. This is the components or reused components library. So if you have used any components in your solution, you can go and add them, so that a developer can actually pick it up, or another developer can use it while working on this process. This is more of collaborators, like who are there in this process. So you can tag different people, like who's a developer, who's a business analyst, who's a process owner. So all the people. So if you go to manage roles and permissions, you should be able to add different people into the same project. And this is where you track all the change requests and the history of entire the versioning, etc. When was the idea submitted, etc. So all this is maintained here. So this is exactly where you have got the entire assessment or the project status available. So if you go to the explore automation program, you would see what is the status of that particular process. So that's exactly what I wanted to show today. But of course, we've got dashboard and admin module. We can plan to have another session, because then we need to deep dive slightly more into other details. But I'll pause for today and ask if there are any questions you have. I'll check chat if there is anything. Pranam, Vinod, or Harpreet, any question from your side?
Yeah, Sonali. So when you updated the amount for the organization, right? You actually updated the per FT, what it's getting involved to do that process, or the overall like amount,
I'll just
like
open my
all
screen.
including all the 10 FTs what you mentioned in the automation hub.
Okay, let me just open that. So when you said 75,000 K, that is the cost you're
Yes,
talking about. That is per
correct,
employee.
correct.
This
Per
this
employee, right?
this
Okay,
is per
okay.
employee. So
Correct,
when
correct.
when Automation Hub calculates, it automatically multiplies not with 10, but the actual FTs. So you would have seen it would have multiplied it only with the FTs that are required for this process. It did not multiply with 10. So
Oh,
yeah, so
okay.
you would only provide per employee cost. So average employee full cost per year. This is only for one employee you will add.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Any more questions? So maybe if you want to play around with this tool, you can start doing it. And if you have any further questions, feel free to write it to me. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or otherwise I can give you my email ID here, and you can just drop me a message. I will just put it on chat. Yep. I hope the session was useful. So, Pranam, Harpreet, Vinod, feel free to share anything that you want to learn. We can also incorporate that in our other sessions. But I'll be happy to see you in our upcoming discovery sessions.
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks,
Nice
Harpreet.
update. Actually, I have not. I've used Automation Hub with one of our clients, but we didn't use in that depth like you showed it. So we just used the front, that the first, I think the first page, and then maybe just added the PTD over there in documentation. I attached it, and mostly it was to be collaborated with the. We use the collaboration tab and added the project side people who were there uh, supporting the process, SMEs or maybe project team, project managers. That's it. I think the ROI part also was little tricky at that time. I think it was like a year ago, year and a half ago. So where usually we used to not get the exact amount what they are investing with the people's, because sensitive data it is. So we used to do it with the help of how many steps they are doing or how many hours they are spending basically. So anything above 100 hours, we were considering it as a good to go as an automation. So that was one very like amazing experience, and it has been and then we could also achieve a good automation rate also. So usually it used to be above 60, 70, 70 and above. It used to be always. It's been amazing
What is
to
70?
see
Sorry,
how what
what do you mean by
70 to
70?
75% automation we used to achieve.
That's
So
really good.
that
Yeah.
was yeah, and usually what happens is when you start discovery and when you go till the PTD, uh, some of the parts starts getting like, no, we'll keep it out of scope. So there are challenges with the application, or when you have then there is something comes up to, no, we don't want to get into this is a really complex one, this we cannot be in a medium level. So then things starts changing accordingly, and then the automation rate also goes down.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest challenge typically you face as a BA. Like there is a lot of scope creep, like, some of the scope would keeps on adding. So that's where,
Right,
you have to really consider PDD as a Bible and then go to business that, this is my agreed scope. And then beyond that, we have to
absolutely,
pick it up as a change request or probably another process altogether.
absolutely, totally agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Any comments?
No, okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. As I said, yeah, Vinod, you're saying something.
No, 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 all good. All good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vinod. Okay, we'll see you in the next session then. Thank you. I'm happy that it was useful.
Thanks.
Have a good
Thanks.
rest.
Sonali, have you shared that session also? Like, it's going to be the same link or like the same invite, or is it going to be another one?
It's another invite. So if you go to the chapter, I would probably ping it here as well. You would be seeing some more discovery sessions. Or otherwise, if you
Oh,
can
okay.
send me a LinkedIn request, I can just send you
I
those
have
sessions.
already shared you my LinkedIn request. I'll ping you on what LinkedIn maybe
Yeah, yeah.
later.
I'm just sending you the chapter link. You would be able to see those four sessions in that chapter.
Perfect. Sure.
Okay. Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.